Can I date my mech? It doesn't seem so far like the game's mechs are people, but they might have intelligence. I imagine that will be a thing we can look at later, because I don't imagine they would give you, hey, here's a game about giant robots, but there's no options for like semi-intelligent or fully intelligent. You're playing as both. I think in this case, I don't know. We got to look and see if can your mech be destroyed with you around? If you're killed, can you make a new pilot and keep playing the same mech? I don't know yet, right? So let's see here. So mech skills. The Lancer has 4 mech skills, so to represent their ability to build, pilot, and fight with mechs. Hull describes your ability to build and pilot durable, structurally sound mechs that can take punches. Agility. See, now this is interesting. So we have a bunch of abilities that describe piloting different kinds of mech. So like, if you have a high hull, you have a high ability to build and pilot a specific kind of mech. Agility is fast, evasive mechs. It's interesting, and the reason why I wanted to call this out is because it doesn't say it's your ability to build and pilot. It's not your ability to pilot mechs doing those things. It's about piloting those kinds of mech, right? So it's not like hull describes your ability to pilot mechs doing durable, resistant, strength-related things. It's those kinds of mechs. Agility isn't making a mech do agile stuff. It's piloting mechs that are themselves agile. Yeah. Systems are build and pilot mechs with electronic warfare capabilities, and then engineering is build and pilot mechs with effective reactors, supplies, and support systems. Your skills go from +0 to +6, and they are used instead of triggers to make skill checks directly utilizing your mech. In mech combat, when making saves, and for additional bonuses. Now, if you're in combat, does your background come up? No, outside combat. Okay, so it's really, really segregated between mechanics, right? Most of the stuff that is relevant in narrative play, totally irrelevant in mech combat. Interesting. Or when you're in your mech. It reminds me a little bit of Night Witches, where you have daytime and nighttime abilities that you can roll, or things you can only do during the day or night. And then having to pilot a plane during the day really deeply fucks with you, and then trying to have like relationship conversations at night also is impossible, or nearly impossible. Yeah, okay. I dig it. Okay. All right. So mechs are modular. Each frame comes with a list of gear that can be freely swapped. Because of this customizability, pilots are experts at building them, and so they're literally frames upon which you hang stuff. Cool. I like that. Okay. So your access goes up, you gain license rank. All of the mechs, right? Manufacturers offer different licenses that you can level up and buy in order. Cool. Gear porn. Got it. Okay. You never lose access to mechs or gear you're licensed to use. You have always have access to it by one means or another: influence, patronage, wealth, or rank. It seems weird to me that the pilot, I guess this is something the game is pointing out, the pilot, once inside the mech, stops mattering, right? Once you are actively using your mech, the fact that you are a celebrity with charm, lead or inspire, and threaten doesn't matter anymore. You are a person in narrative conflict or narrative play, and you are just a pilot of a robot, which seems kind of like, yeah, I don't know. Interesting. All pilots have access to the GMS SP1 Everest frame. Right, narrative play can take place inside the mechs. I just mean that when you're fighting, like, you can't. That's not true. You could have a conversation with an enemy pilot in your mech. Yeah, but not while you're fighting them, right? So I couldn't be like, you're fighting, you're in the middle of a fight, you want to try to intimidate them, you turn on your loudspeakers, and you're like, it is I, Reginald Valere, glorious celebrity of 15 campaigns. I am here to help you survive. It doesn't matter because you're in combat. No, but it specifically says outside of combat, you can invoke your background. So if you are in combat, the rules literally say right here, you can't invoke your pilot's background in combat. And that seems weird to me. Anyway, whatever. It's a little, I know that's backgrounds. Yeah, exactly. And that's fine, right? Like, I'm just saying that it says in the rules, there are rules for combat and there are rules for outside of combat. It says instead of triggers when you make skill checks that directly utilize a mech. So like, that's what I'm saying is that you intimidate with your mech instead of with who you are. That's less important because you're in your mech. You're going to use or whatever, right? You're going to use the mech's abilities instead of your own. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how the systems move back and forth. Okay. So the frame is the base of the mech, and then you build on top of it. The frame gives you size and armor and a core system. Okay, and we know that humans are size 1/2, which sort of breaks the rounding rule, but that's okay. And then armor reduces all incoming damage based on your mech's frame, never goes above 4. Mechs can carry, and then they have mounts, right, which are like hard points on the mount. Yeah, okay. Weapons type. I don't need to dig into this. I love the little, I want to just from a design perspective, I'm going to harp on the font choice because I'm not a huge fan of it, but I will say, look how cute this is. Look, that's the symbol for kinetic. It's a symbol for explosive, symbol for energy. Icon's good. Heat and burn as separate. Those are good. I'm into it. Digging it. Those are cool. All right, cool. It's interesting when folks in chat and in the comments leap to defend a system, right? Where they're like, well, it's a role-playing game. You have to hack it. You have to modify it. That's part of the fun. Like, I get that is part of the fun, but I tend to read games. I read games by what they say they are about. If a game makes a statement, I tend to believe it, right? So when the game says these are for combat and these are not for combat, I have to believe them. That's what they want, right? You gotta understand a game as it's written before you can start to adjust it. So that's why when I look at it, I'm like, I would think about changing this once I had a better understanding of the game. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, damage, system points to add extra systems. This is all mech building stuff, which is cool, right? The game obviously leans really deeply into customizing your mech, which is great. That's what you want, right? Like, look at this. So on this 2-page spread, the character is one column, and then it's the rest to fill out the meshing between that character and their mech. I think that's really cool. So this is an example. I'm not going to go too deeply in. Again, I don't want to dig into the mechanisms of like building characters or whatever. If you want to learn more about this, you want to take this for a spin. CompCon, their app for making characters and stuff will definitely help ease you through that process. So let's see how the game is actually played. So here we go. In Lancer, play sessions are structured around missions. A mission always has clear goal and stakes. You establish both of these before you jump into the action. There's something that needs doing, probably needs to be done fast. Without player intervention, the outcome will be radically different. Cool. That's good. I like that. So it's like you begin your game by saying, this is your mission. And then here, remember all that stuff I was asking about? Here's the game answering it, right? Who are you? Who do you work for? Why are you together? What is the deal? Thank you. This is the answer to that question. So we start by establishing the mission. We do the briefing. This is like Mouse Guard giving you your mission. Players build their mechs. Ah, that's cool. So you build your mech after, right, just like Mouse Guard. So it's like, or Blades in the Dark, right? Where it's like, here's the mission. We all agree on what's happening. Now, set up your characters for that mission. Now go do the mission, right? I like that. That's very cool. So at the end of each mission, you debrief, level up, go do downtime, take some narrative space to undergo projects, progress your story, and prepare for the mission. Okay, cool. So missions can be between one session and multiple sessions. You could also hammer out several if you have a longer session. So session and mission don't overlap perfectly. So in the first session, you have to figure out who your characters are, right? Either roll a d20 or figure out so this is a rule. You figure out who your characters are to each other, right? Who do we take orders from? My personal favorite is the whisperings of a long dead monolith. And then we figure out character history if we want to, right? Things we can flesh out. But I like that. So it's like, all right, who do you work with? Who do you work for? Why are you together? Work that out as a group, make some notes about that, and then take on your mission, right? So the GM provides, this is one of my favorite phrases in role-playing games, the situation. This is the GM's like main job, right? What is going on? Where is it happening? What is at stake? Get to work. So the GM presents a goal. The goal is what the players hope to accomplish with their mission. So that's cool. I like that it's laid out as a separate thing. So if the GM says to you, you are going to this planet to put down a put down a rebellion, your character goals might be, we're actually going to figure out why the rebellion is happening, right? So you come up with a goal, you figure out the stakes, right? If you succeed, this is what will happen. You can ask them, these are stakes questions, right? Will the player save the new frontier? And I guess decided by the GM, strongly influenced by actions, drives, histories of the characters. Precise details of the stakes depend. It doesn't look like there are any mechanical. Yeah, so you just work out the stakes together. I don't know if this is something the GM shares with the players. I guess it's during the briefing. Yeah, so what's at stake? That's cool. So you figure it out as a group. Yeah, okay. I like that. Okay, and then players enter the preparation stage, choose your mech, go through the whole process of building, acquire new abilities, or acquire new mech stuff that you haven't used before and put it on there, get to go. And then you do your reserves. Now reserves, let's see, an umbrella term for extra gear, ammo, support, reinforcement, or whatever. Acquired during downtime. No specific rules as to what counts as a reserve. Establishing it is important because it shows. So what, I guess, what governs reserves? Like, oh, here we go. How to acquire them. Page 50. Okay. So we won't worry about reserves for now. And then boots on the ground. You jump in. Doesn't necessarily mean jumping right into combat. Probably shouldn't be combat right away, but you start. You just get going. You're here. You're doing the thing. And then you end the mission. Everybody levels up, and then you talk about it as a group, either in or out of character. And it's just something that can let you kind of process that. So when you're actually playing the game, you go back and forth between making skill checks and doing narrative play, and then getting in and doing the mech combat. Making a skill check in this game, the player names their goals. The GM decides the consequences of failure. If there are no consequences, you succeed. I like that, right? So the player says, here's what I want. The GM says, here's what'll happen if you fail. Determine which triggers activate, and whether you or the GM are invoking the pilot's background. Roll a d20. Throw it all together. On a 10+, you accomplish what you set out in Name Your Goal, and you only roll once and stick with the results unless you want to push it. Now, if somebody's helping you, they give you an extra die, but they get pulled into the consequences of failure. Nice and easy. When you roll a skill check, if it's difficult or risky, that means that this is interesting. So difficult, risky, and heroic rolls. So if it's difficult, you just add +1. So if the GM thinks like, I don't know, I guess it'll give us tools for understanding that. So if the GM says that's a difficult thing to accomplish, throw in another difficulty die. Okay. If it's risky, even if you succeed, You always suffer the consequences on any result under 20. A risky check succeeds on 10 plus. So here's our granular. Again, something that I would just hack into the game, just make every roll involved have like a risky threshold, right? So what this is saying is if the roll is risky, if you get a 10, between a 10 and 20, that means your character succeeds, but there is a cost. If you get a 20 or higher, does this sound familiar? 20 or higher. Yeah, it's okay. I'm describing the text for you. So the way it works is if you get a 20 or higher, it's a 10 plus in Apocalypse World. If you get a 10 to 20, it's a 7 to 9. If you get a lower than 10, you miss, right? That's how risky rolls work. But it feels weird to have that not be just a core component of the game, right? Like, no, I can't. Okay. But yeah, so that's how that works. So there is some granular success stuff, but it's only when the GM decides the roll is risky enough that there is some degree of, I think with a skilled GM it might work, but I think that's something you'd have to really like, yeah, you'd have to really work at figuring out. It would be cool to just set a risk threshold, right? To be like 10 plus is always a success. Let's say the risk threshold is 15. Risk threshold is only 12. Maybe there is no risk threshold. It's simple enough. You either do it or you don't do it, right? Yeah, interesting. If an action is so hard, it seems outlandish, you can make it heroic, which means 20 plus is successful. And the character suffers it just moves the difficulty up to 20. A heroic roll can also be difficult. That feels kind of like clunky to me. Yeah, I don't know. Trying again and pushing it. If you push it, as long as it's not risky, if you failed. Okay. So if the check isn't risky, you make a second attempt and it becomes risky. If it's already risky, now it's heroic. Okay. All right. It's complex. But yeah. All right. And then if you roll less than 10 or less than 20, you suffer the consequences. Before the roll is made, the GM has to lay it out. They can only inflict consequences clearly established in this way. Right. So more Burning Wheel, less Dungeon World in that regard. Okay. All right. Some consequences might be harm, time, resources, collateral, position, effect. In addition to like, you don't get what you want. Okay. Right. You make a skill check to knock somebody out. You fail. They deal you 2 damage. You establish this before going in. So it's like consequences are a no and, right? Consequences are, if you fail, these things happen. You don't get what you want and this bad thing happens, right? So I guess if we want to frame it that way, it's right, but only with risky rolls, Neighboros. So a non-risky roll is it's success or failure and, right? Failure and a bad thing happens. The consequences come true. A risky roll is you succeed or yes, but, and then if you fail, it's yes and. Okay, all right. I think that makes sense. Yeah. And then if you push it, you can make a roll, yes, but if you get that risk. Okay, all right. So it's a bit weird and probably would take some getting used to, but it's not that innately, like it's not complex. It's a little bit, it seems weird because it's not a system, like I've never seen it exactly arranged this way. But I get it. I think I get what they're going for. It's semi-granular depending on the circumstances. It could use being laid out like a chart. Actually, like that's the thing, like there's not a lot of like visual aids to help us understand this stuff, but I kind of get it. I almost want to say that normal rolls would be called like simple checks. So like there's simple, Well, the problem is it's not granular. This doesn't make it granular success. It just means failure is worse, right? Which is good. It's momentum without granularity. It's saying if you fuck up, not only are you going to fail, but there will be some additional consequence to your having fucked up. And that's true no matter what kind of roll you're making. That's always the case. Yeah. Okay. All right. I think I get it. Yeah. Okay. And then a skill challenge is a bunch of people working on doing something together, like infiltrate a guarded facility, gaining favor with a character, traversing the wastes, whatever. And in this case, for plans of several stages, an extended challenge, right? And so you win. You have a certain number of rounds to win a majority of successes. Okay. In narrative play, players always have the benefit of initiative, the chance to act first. Even if they're ambushed? Even if it's like a gun fight, like a draw, like a Wild West. Name a goal. I guess that's just part of abstracting it, right? So in that case, it would be a gun, like a duel, a Wild West gun duel. That's not combat. An ambush shouldn't be combat. If it's a good ambush, it's a massacre, right? They don't get a chance to fight back. But I think in this case, that would be you're making a roll to survive being ambushed. Maybe it's just a saving throw or something. NPCs don't make, here we go. NPCs don't take action or make rolls in narrative play. Done. So it would be you would ask the players for a check to survive the bad thing happening to them. If the player makes lies to an NPC, the NPC doesn't make a roll, the player has to be, and I like that. It already makes sense to me. This is extremely clarifying. Yeah, roll to survive bombardment, roll to lie to somebody. They don't roll to oppose you. So that means then that, how does this interact with contested rolls? If the NPCs don't roll in narrative play, are contested rolls purely PvP? Right? I'm not sure about that. Yeah, this seems to be PvP skill checks, because rolling at all against an NPC is indicated by the difficulty of how hard it would be to lie to them. I feel like I would just make every check risky, because that word risky to me is like why you roll. Like if it's not, yeah. Well, what I'm saying is it's in narrative play, right? So there's probably only a lot of like, yeah, PvP narratively. There's contested rolls in mech combat, sure, but I'm talking about narrative play. So there's no, like, the way to GM this would be if they're arm wrestling, it's not the NPC rolls and you roll, it's you roll, and the difficulty is indicated by how strong the person you are wrestling with is. So if I'm like, oh, they're super wimpy, don't roll. Or I could say, oh, they're using their robot arm, that's a risky roll, go, right? And like, yeah, you beat him, but you hurt yourself. You strained your muscles or something. The thing is risky has potential risks in spite of success. Normal has risks from a lack of success. I think every attempt to do anything, there should be a risk from a lack of success. Yeah. There's failing. Where is there failing forward in this game though? Like, that's like, it's not something I see in the base rules, right? Like, unless a check is risky, the failing forward is just, I guess, the bad thing that happens to you. I think a lot of people don't understand what fail forward means. It means that when you fail, the results are as interesting and move the narrative forward as much as a success, which I see in the risky rolls. And I kind of think that's what the stakes are supposed to be for. I think the stakes are what will happen to move the narrative. That's where the fail forward bit is so far. Yeah. It's a different branch of the narrative tree. Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So combat takes place in narrative play. The normal rules for skill checks apply. This allows combat to play out like a movie rather than a tactical game. Perfect. Love it. So if you're fighting as a person, not in your robot suit, you can make an extended check. You can make some skill checks. I like games that let me abstract combat. That's what I like. That's what I want. I want to be able to elide it, to be like, all right, everybody, roll. If you succeed, you get through the fight without getting hurt. If you fail, you get hurt. And if a majority of people fail, you lose the battle, right? Great, done. We just did it using this thing. One person has to lead the battle. Your check is risky. Yeah. So like, even if you succeed, something bad might happen. Okay, all right. I kind of get it. I sort of understand how that works. Okay, well, we're going to skip through any more of this stuff. We're going to take a look at Downtime. I sort of want to find, because I still don't know. I know, what is this game about, right? Mechanically, I see how it's about that. We use our triggers, our skills, our background, our mech, and all of our mech abilities, plus combat and non-combat approaches to get what we want. But I don't know how we're rewarded yet, and I want to make sure I have time to flip through the GM section. So maybe let's jump there. Let's jump there right now. Let's jump to the GMing section so that I make sure I have time for it. Obviously, there's a ton of really amazing art. There's a lot of tables and licensing and like stuff in the middle of this game. I would love to have time to do like a full page by page review, but I feel like if you're not hooked by now, you probably won't bother. But like, look at all these cool robots. Maybe we'll flip through the art at the end, but let's go to the GMing chapter. And we will, God, this game is going to look beautiful in like physical form. Like if they picked a good printer, this book is going to be so nice. Please pick a good printer, please. Please do like offset printing. Please don't print on demand exclusive this book. It deserves better. Please. It would be such a shame if this was just like a soft cover POD game. I would not want that. Okay, I think we got past the beginning of the GM. This is the monster manual. Environments. This is all DMG type stuff. World building. Whoa. Okay, running the game. Here we go. Let's see. GM toolkit. There we go. Cool. Oh, this art is really good too, but it's like a completely different style. That's so cool. That like watercolor kind of nice. That's really good. Okay. All right. So let's take a look here. So the Game Master's Guide, our job as the Game Master is to facilitate, arbitrate, and make rulings to adapt your notes, world, and narrative in response to your player choices. Fuck yeah. Right? Facilitate, but you're not responsible for. Arbitrate, but you're not the authority on. Make rulings, adapt your notes, world, and narrative in response to your players' choices. Nice. That's good. That is a good thing. Renounce control. Yes. As the GM, accept the story you tell will not be the one you outlined. I would go, it's not may not, will not, cannot. It is impossible to imagine what your game will end up looking like at the end from the beginning. Do not try. Consider your players, right? Set expectations, ensure everyone feels comfortable and gets a chance to contribute. So I don't like when games tell the GM that they're responsible for everyone's comfort, but I get why they do it, because we don't often. This is what I love about Tales from the Loop. Can I just call out Tales from the Loop for a second here? So Tales from the Loop does this in the best way possible. Before the GM chapter, before the player chapter, it says this is everyone's job. If you are sitting down to play this game, everyone is responsible for listening to each other's contributions, making the game table safe. It's not the GM's job. The GM is not responsible for ensuring that everyone feels comfortable. The chance to contribute bit, that is true. That is, spotlighting is usually a GM responsibility. Yeah, I don't think that the GM is the team mom. Say yes. As the GM, try to say no as little as possible. I'm going to nitpick a little bit because this is the chapter that I care the most about. Don't tell me to try. This sentence doesn't feel like a rule. This is like, if you make an attack roll, you could use a d20 if you wanted, but I guess you could use like some d6s instead. Whatever works for you, you just do that. I want rules. Don't tell me to try. Tell me what to do. So as the GM, if I'm never allowed to say no, well, principles are rules. Everything in this game is a rule. If you're telling the player what to do, that is a rule. I just don't like mush. I don't like, you could do this maybe if you wanted to, sorta. As little as possible is kind of weak, and try is weak. If I were the editor, I would say, what does this rule actually want the player to do? I get that it wants to say yes as much, like say yes a lot, or say yes mostly. The worst of all the games I have ever read in the history of RPGs, the absolute worst one of these is 13th Age. 13th Age is so bad about like mushy advice that's like, you could do it this way, or like a different way, or like not any of these ways at all. I don't know. It's your game, even though I wrote it. It drives me crazy. So I'm very tuned to that. I think that it's good advice. I think it's the idea here is like, be open to anything that could happen, right? But I don't think yes and is very good from an improv perspective when you're looking at being the GM. Because if a player says to you, my mom is the king of the universe, and your job is to say yes and you know there is no king of the universe, now you have to like do this awkward dance where you're like, yes, she is. And nobody believes it. Yeah, it's no but, right? No but is way better, right? It's like, no, that's not reasonable at all, but here is an option instead, right? So that'd be a different way to phrase that. I don't like yes and. I like yes but. Yeah, I like yes, but not the way you think, or no, because you don't get to make that up. That's my job, but we could talk about this instead, right? Yeah. Eliciting responses from players. This is an interesting way. Eliciting responses instead of saying asking questions. Right? You want to elicit a response. That's a cool way of phrasing that. Because it's not just about asking a question. It's about asking questions that you know or anticipate your players will have something interesting to say about that. I think that's cool. There's a few Apocalypse World-isms in here, right? Address the characters. I like that myself, but not always. Be descriptive, right? Don't always jump to the rules. I think I'm gonna take a look forward. I'm gonna imagine a future, right? So we're gonna be doing a first look whenever it comes out, and take your time, Andrew. But whenever it comes out, we're gonna be taking a look at Girl by Moonlight. And just from what I've seen already of Girl by Moonlight, what I know about Andrew and what I know about the way that they think about games and what I've seen so far of the game, Girl by Moonlight engages the be your character, but think about your character, right? Like in a way that I don't think I've ever seen a game do. I think that's going to be the thing that when Girl by Moonlight comes out, that is what we will remember about it. That it is a game written by someone who understands what it means to narratively control a player character better than probably anyone else I've ever had the pleasure of playing role-playing games with. So now, whenever I see things like keep things in character or address characters, not players, I'm like, Andrew will have something to say about this. I can't wait. So yeah, just look forward to that. If you haven't heard of Girl by Moonlight, if you haven't looked into it, go do that because it's amazing. So now we have what we need to build a game, right? Set up our game, how to run the first session, what the GM's job is during that session. I love this idea of set up a second session before you leave. I think that's really important. So this uses my favorite description of narrative, right? We talk a lot about what is the narrative, what is the fiction in a role-playing game. Story is what you tell yourselves and each other after the game is done, right? Remember when this thing happened in the game. Remember when that thing happened? I was so excited when, right? But the game is over. It's past tense. The narrative is the describing. This is the thing that we're doing at the table. The fiction is the object we are imagining. So I like that this game calls it out, that is the missing thing that you can only do by working together, right? And then lots of use of stakes questions and questions in general throughout the GMing section in the game. That's really cool. I really like it. Think about why, when, understand the setting and the player's decisions. And then it gives us some tools for creating hooks for missions, right? I love it. Randomized mission table. It's good to roll on, and it's good to just understand what the game is like possible. What do we have in this game, right? So advice and clarification, sort of the GM's look at the other side of the rules. Here's the failing forward section. So what this game, when it talks about failing forward, what Lancer means is the narrative doesn't require specific outcomes to be interesting. So skill checks should push the story forward no matter their outcome. If a player fails to hack the door, the outcome should be more than just a closed door. Now, this is the thing, because the door this runs opposite to what the rules say. Right? It runs counter to, like, earlier on, the rules say if you fail your roll, you don't get what you want. So if a player fails to hack the door should theoretically stay closed if that was their intent. Because that's what the rules say, right? Like in again, my example is Burning Wheel. In Burning Wheel, task and intent. I say, I want to frighten the king by stabbing his page in the heart, right? So the GM says, okay, that's swords. It's going to be ob 3. If you succeed, you stab him and the king is frightened. Now, we don't say anything about this guy surviving or dying or anything. I'm just doing a stab to impress the king or scare the king, right? If I roll and I fail, no matter what happens, I cannot frighten the king. That is off the table. I might get something else related to it, right? I might kill the king's page, which might upset and annoy the king, but he's not frightened. But the way this game sets it up is if the player rolls 9 or less, they cannot have what they wanted. So if their intent is, in this case, to open the door and they fail, the rules in the earlier section say you can't open the door. I think that the game, again, if I were the editor, I would have looked at failing forward and I would have put this much closer to the core mechanics, and I would have made sure to, like, lay that stuff out, right? It's saying don't roll to open the door, roll to open the door before the guards get you. Exactly, right? Clarify. Because that's different, right? These aren't examples just for risky. This is just flat out examples. Well, this is the thing is, this is unclear, because if someone said to me, I want to hack the door, I would say, no, you don't. You want to open the door, or you want to keep the door from ever being opened again. What is your actual intent? Maybe it's just a bad example, because I don't know this is not good intent. Hack the door doesn't imply opening or closing it, right? If a player fails to open a door with hacking, then we can look at what failing forward does. I'm just saying I could probably run this game the way I want it to feel by nudging and adjusting it throughout. But if I gave this to someone who hadn't played a Powered by the Apocalypse game or Burning Wheel or Torchbearer or something, they would either play it just like D&D because that's what people do and it's frustrating, or they would read the rules and they would get confused. Right? Because there's no clear indicator here of intent. Sometimes you just want a normal succeed or fail skill check, so don't make all the rolls risky. But in a succeed and fail skill check, that means you fail at the thing. I think it doesn't. I can tell that the writers of this game, that Tom and Miguel, we probably agree on most of what I'm saying, but I don't think the execution carries that forward super well. And I know people will, 460 pages, there's not going to be a lot of people reading as closely as I am. They're going to read this, they're going to figure it out, and they're going to be like, okay, I think I know how this works, and that's how they're going to play it. Yeah. It's more phrasing. Like, I get what they're trying to do, but yeah, I don't think it has some weird conflict between fictional positioning and the mechanisms of the game. They're kind of butting heads in some strange ways. Again, like I don't hate it. I could figure it out, but let me see if there's some advice for. So this is reserves. They talk about that. This is improving triggers. Is there something about whether or not to use their like background, whether or not to how to invoke that? I don't know. I don't think so. Okay. And then GM Toolkit, we have some core assumptions about the game. I love when this stuff gets laid out. Thank you. Again, put the little professor hat on the imp, because I love hearing why something is in a system, as long as it's written in a way that further clarifies. I don't want commentary. I don't want like, hey, we included this because we thought it would be funny. I don't want that. I want clarification by way of the author speaking directly to me. That's the thing I want. And this game does that in a way that is really good, right? Like, we did this, we assume these things, the mechanisms believe this stuff. If you find you are running into trouble with that, it's counter to the expectations of the game, so something might be going wrong, right? It is basically saying, we did our playtesting, we looked at the mechanisms, and this is what we think they reflect. Yeah. These are battle sit reps, which like, whoa. Now I want to combine this game with, what's that Lego Mobile Frame Zero? The one with the Lego robots where you build mechs out of Lego. I guess if you haven't heard of Mobile Frame Zero, that's the other mech role-playing game that I think more people need to know about. It's fucking cool. It's very cool. And you build mechs out of, Firebrands is adjacent to it. Yeah. You build mechs out of Lego, and then as they get damaged, you take pieces off of them and you like attach other. It's very cool. Okay. Let's see. So these are all like battles. We got some world building, right? Rolling on tables to create planets, NPCs, how to build them. And then a bunch of like examples of those things. Oh, it's so cool. Look at this vaporwave robot. I guess, am I missing kind of here at the end? Cause I don't want to dig through all the setting stuff. Am I missing the reward structure of this game? Or is there not one? Downtime has ancillary. I don't want ancillary reward structures. I want to understand there's no XP. There's just licensing level. Yeah. So is there any other, like, if you as a player do this, your character will get that? So you're saying there's something in Downtime? We'll take a look at Downtime, because I don't want to say I don't believe you, but I don't believe you. What page is Downtime on? Let's see. 38. Okay. Like, I'm expecting like a tertiary reward or something, but yeah. I want to know how to play this game. I want to know how to win, right? Because again, it's a game, and it's a game with advancement, and advancement is a form of winning. And if all I can do to win is just keep playing the game, then I don't know what else to do except not fail. Yeah. I know I don't care about leveling up, win and lose. Yeah, leveling up's not an incentive, it's a timer in this game. So let's take a look. Downtime. So 2 components to downtime actions and freeform play. So like blades, downtime actions are defined activities allow you to accumulate reserves. Reserves of downtime is not just to prepare, it's to tell personal stories. The GM might decide their new bond gives them a +1 accuracy on skill checks. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so you can set up scenes to gain temporary bonuses during the next mission, but you don't know what the mission is, so it's a non-strategic play unless you're trying to build. So you're going to get a lot of scenes in that case if you're trying to angle for that bonus. You're going to have a lot of scenes of people training with each other, people like doing gun practice. You're going to have, because you want to get benefits to skill checks that you know you're going to make in the next thing, rather than, because if you knew the mission, then Downtime would show you prepping for that mission, which seems like way more to the point than how that works. So yeah, so you can do that. You can have social interactions that will let you gain temporary benefits. The reserves are things you can pull in for permanent benefits because you have created them, right? You went out and you scavenged, you built something new or whatever. So lay this out for me. How many actions? I don't care about resources or equipment or gear. Here we go. So downtime actions have a specific outcome whether you succeed or fail. Even though downtime actions aren't skill checks, triggers can be used to get bonuses. The outcomes depend on the role. How many can we do of these? 1. Okay, 1 downtime each. Perfect. Okay. So power to cost. Trying to get your hands on something. These are Apocalypse World moves. Straightforward way to acquire reserves. Just go get them. Buy some time. So you describe your plan and you roll. You can use that. It creates a distraction, or you use that bot time as a reserve. That's kind of cool. Gather information. So like interrogating the fiction, blowing off steam. So this isn't a reward. Holy shit. God, it's a Guar cover. That's awesome. You don't, I gotta move the page so I'm not distracted by that anymore. You don't get, that's not a reward structure. That's prep, right? This is a secondary non-reward preparation module, but I wouldn't consider that a reward because it's not telling me what to do. For me, a reward is the game says, Adam, if you do A, I will give you B, and you can exchange B for like certainty or character advancement, right? And then I go out there and I do A, and I am rewarded with B, which I can then use for C. Reserves are a mechanical, they're a mechanical bonus, but I'm not getting rewarded for doing anything, right? I'm making rolls, which I always do. And it's not a reward in the same way that like not losing hit points isn't a reward, or killing your enemies isn't a reward. I think that there isn't one. I think that's the thing. There's no, outside of the milestones of session by session, there's no reward structure, which immediately for me turns me off from playing the game. I don't need a game that has advancement, but I want flags. I want things to resolve, right? I want to understand what the game expects me to do. Like in this, if I succeed or fail, it doesn't matter mechanically. As long as I'm alive, it doesn't matter. Success and failure is irrelevant, because I'm gonna level up if I finish the mission. Succeeding or failing at the mission has a narrative impact, I suppose, but unless I die, it does not matter. I will advance. So as a player of this game, I guess I would have to make my own fun in the sense that my reward would have to be, do I entertain my fellow players? Do I get to narrate my character being cool? Can I have a fun time with whoever I'm playing with? The only risk then is the risk of loss, and everything else is just you get to be alive. Even finishing, even failing at the mission, you still level up. I don't necessarily trust games whose only true reward is the friends we made along the way. Yeah, I don't know. I want mechanical rewards. I want games that have some kind of like way for me to show my character off, to boost and support my fellow players, to do cool things, and I want to get rewarded for it, right? So that to me feels like the biggest like gap in the game's design. It looks like if what you want, I would have a lot of fun with this game doing the like mech combat stuff. I'm absolutely certain of it. Like once I got my head around it, and I assume with like CompCon's help, I would have a lot of fun with the like tactical like fighty bits. I don't like, it seems to me like this may not be the mech game for me though, because what I want is the mech and the pilot to interact in a synchronous way. I want to feel like they are aspects of the same, right? That they are one unit with two different facets. And I want to explore the tension between those things. In this, it feels like they're all one thing, which is cool. You are both your character and your mech, but I would have liked to have seen like that be part of the there's nothing about the characters to understand here. The characters themselves don't really like, I guess we grow and change in the sense that they get better at being what they are and they become more proficient. But like Dungeons and Dragons, we never really learn much more about them. The only real kind of character depth that we can get out of a character in this game is changing the triggers, right? Altering your triggers is really saying things about your character, right? It's telling you like, this is something that has moved me into a new mode. I want to play my character in a different way. I want to show you that that I've moved. But you know what? I think this is just like a giant robot fighting game. No, I don't, that's not a criticism. But I think that's what this game cares about. I think fundamentally the game is a game about cool giant robots fighting. It is about fighting for a reason, right? They're fighting on missions, and it's about setting out a setting in which that is a fun, cool thing to do, right? That you are able to, like, all of the art, the only purpose of art in a game like this or any role-playing game is to put ideas and thoughts in your brain, right? It's to say to you, imagine this, right? What if this were the world, right? And so the art and the narrative and the setting, they are all there to put those thoughts in our brain so that when we describe the mech tactical combat, I think those things are really cool. I think that's great. I think that's totally a valid reason and method for designing a game. I don't know that it's a game that I'm super interested in. It's in that complexity space where it's just past what I would want to play. I think this is somebody's fetish, but it's not mine, really. I'm less interested in sort of GURPS style simulationist tactical combat than I am what does it mean to pilot a giant robot in combat. I feel like and I had the same experience with Pathfinder. I don't really want to play Pathfinder. But I enjoyed the Pathfinder video game because all of the stuff I didn't care about was elided by the game. But again, I may not be the target audience for anything but the art in this game. And I think that's fine, right? I've said over and over when we do these first looks, whenever we talk about any game, whether it's a role-playing game or a board game or a video game, it's much better to make a game that is beloved of a small handful of people than it is to make a game that everybody thinks is like whatever, right? You want people to be passionate fans of your game. And I imagine that just based on what I'm seeing, I imagine that I would very easily fall in love with the universe, right? I'm going to read, and what's funny is I'm going to go back and read this whole book, but I know the part I'm going to read first is the setting, because I want to contextualize the art. I don't really care about all of the massive system stuff. I don't really care too much about the mechanisms because I don't think I'll ever play that kind of game, which again is fine. I think that coming to this game from a perspective of like, how do I get this role-playing game to do what I want? Sometimes you get to the place where the answer is you can't, right? Like, no matter how much I try, I'm never going to be able to tunnel through a mountain with a plastic spoon. Now, a plastic spoon is going to serve me in lots of other ways, but if my goal is to dig through a mountain, I need a different tool. So I can recognize Lancer as being a highly complex, I have to assume equally play-tested mechanism, but it's a mechanism for doing something I'm not interested in, right? It is a piece of exercise equipment when I have no interest in becoming more fit. So yeah, it's cool. It's a cool game, but it might not be for me. When I want to tell stories about giant robots, I don't tend to reach for the big, complicated. Like I've told this story on stream before. I used to like building mechs with GURPS Mecha, which I consider to be maybe the most extreme example of giant robot gear porn in role-playing games. GURPS Mecha is it's a lot. I wouldn't play it. I like building the robots, but I would like to see someone else who is more interested in this sort of thing take it on and make it feel like a smooth experience. Because I know it will be hard for me to use this system to make mech combat feel flashy and punchy in the way that I want. Yeah. No, it's not that it's more a spoon and I prefer chopsticks. It's like me playing this game to tell a story about mech pilots with feelings would be like me trying to drink a bowl of broth with chopsticks. Like futile, near impossible, right? I need a spoon. You need a spoon to tell spoon type stories. Anyway, I have to go and play a role-playing game in like an hour. So I got to go and eat something and prep for that. This has been a first look at Massive Press's Lancer. Definitely check it out. If any of this has piqued your interest, if you're sitting there thinking like, Adam, you get your head up your ass, or like, Adam, I want to play complex far future mechanics, giant robot battles, let me at it. Please go check it out. You can use the Lancer command in chat, or you can look at the link down below. I hope that at the very least it has been enlightening and interesting. I think it's a cool game that I will probably never play, but I'm super happy I backed it, and I cannot wait. I cannot fucking wait to see the physical copy of this beautiful, beautiful thing. If you have any suggestions of like other people doing like actual play or other videos about this game that take a look at it, feel free to link them in chat, throw them in the comments. I know people are always looking for more in-depth looks at games or even demos or actual play. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming and for checking out Lancer with me. Read Kill 6 Billion Demons. Do it. I demand it. That is the one thing I will tell you have to do. Go and read it. It's so good. All right, that's it. I will see you next time, everybody. Goodbye.